All right, everybody. Welcome here to Ray Fisher Stadium, here, the home of baseball in Ann Arbor, Michigan, after a 3-hour weather delay to see what is actually not most likely is. It will be the closing game of this shortened 2-game weekend series between the Michigan Wolverines and Maryland Terrapins in baseball. My name is Nick Hornberg. I will be running play-by-play so far, at least for the start of this game. Riding shotgun next to me is Mr. Adam Rich. Adam, what's your impression? What do you expect from this game in terms of, obviously, with the weather? Players have been sitting down for a while, so obviously a bit of holdover from the game postponement yesterday. They have not played since Friday. Do you expect both teams to come out a little bit sluggish?
I don't think so. I mean, I think these guys will be ready to go. They've been inside for a while, and because of the great facilities here, these guys have had the opportunity to at least stay loose, and they were given ample time to warm up. So I think we should be ready to see some good baseball today. What I think is going to be the most interesting storyline is the pitching perspective on this game, because we've got two guys who are both young, big left-handers who have great secondary stuff, and it's just a matter of how well can they control that secondary stuff, because anytime the weather is bad like this and the temperature drops, it's really difficult to get a feel for your breaking pitches. And sometimes it can take 3 to 4 innings before you really feel comfortable throwing a curveball or slider in this weather. And if that's the case for both of these pitchers, they might not even last 3 or 4 innings. And especially with this only being the second game of the weekend series, like you said, Nick, there was only that game Friday night. So both teams are going to be fully staffed. All the bullpen pitchers are going to be ready to go. Teams could even use their third starters who were supposed to pitch in the second half of the doubleheader today, which has inevitably been canceled as a result of this weather. So I won't say the starters are going to have short leashes, but they're going to have to find their stuff quickly because there's such an ample base of arms ready to back them up if need be.
Well, starting up on the mound here for the Wolverines today is, as you said, left-handed pitcher, freshman Ben Dragani, true freshman in point of fact. So far, to start the season, he's been white hot, leading the Big Ten in ERA 1.13, allowing only a 150 average against opponents, and striking out 27 up against 12 walks. Adam, do you expect, as you said, in this weather, there could be some issues? Do you expect Dragani to continue his hot start?
I think he'll come out firing for sure. He's got a fastball that sits in the low 90s. He's pretty effective with it out of a 3/4 arm slot. He's got a little bit of arm side run, so he might have to rely a little bit more on that fastball today because, as I was saying earlier, it really is tough to find the feel on a breaking pitch in this bad weather. So he'll have to go to that fastball pretty often, have to attack the corners with it, get ahead early, because that's been Michigan baseball's biggest issue this year, when their pitchers fall behind batters early in counts. So if he can get ahead early, I think he'll be really successful. He might have to rely a little bit more on his changeup today, which is definitely less polished than his other pitches, but it's a lot easier to get feel for a changeup in this weather than it is a breaking ball, as I've been saying so far. So look for Dragani to attack with his fastball and changeup, and then mix in that curveball sporadically, just working in his warm-ups to get a grip for it, and then when he feels comfortable with it in game, expect him to unleash it against this Maryland lineup.
All right, the lineup for the Wolverines today, first three are second baseman Akeo Thomas, right fielder Christian Bullock, and center fielder Jonathan Engelman. All three very successful on the base paths, have a combined 36 for 46 stolen bases. Then heart of the order, 4, 5, and 6, third baseman Blake Nelson, first baseman Jesse Franklin, and left fielder Jordan Wogu. And rounding out the order is designated hitter Miles Lewis, catcher Brock Keener, and shortstop Jack Blomgren. Starting lineup for the Terrapins: 1, 2, and 3, A.J. Lee, shortstop A.J. Lee, second baseman Nick Dunn, and left fielder Marty Costas. Heart of the order, first baseman Kevin Biondic, third baseman Taylor Wright, and center fielder Zach Jankarski. Now rounding out their order, right fielder Randy Bednar, designated hitter Tommy Gardner, and catcher Justin Morris. And the pitchers today for the Wolverines, number 21, left-handed pitcher freshman Ben Dragani, and for the Maryland Terrapins, number 21, left-handed pitcher sophomore Tyler Blom. Blom has 8 appearances, 8 starts, which is actually more than Dragani's 4 starts. Has an ERA of 4.08, allows an opponent's average of 0.8. However, he does have 45 strikeouts against 19 walks. I suppose perhaps it's fair to say that in this cold weather, the ball won't necessarily fly as far. So would you not agree, Adam, that in that situation, a strikeout pitcher like Blom perhaps would be helped by the weather?
Well, Blom is pretty similar to Dragani. In addition to them both wearing number 21 and being tall lefties, both guys have really good breaking pitches. Dragani relies a little bit more on a slider, whereas Blom relies a little bit more of a sweeping curveball, but he's going to have to go to that a lot today. And as I've been saying all along, the biggest issue in this weather is that you can't get that feel on your breaking pitches that you usually have. And if you're not used to pitching in this weather, which a lot of these guys aren't, I know a lot of them have grown up in cold weather areas, but for the most part, throughout the winter, you're practicing indoors, you're throwing your bullpen sessions indoors, and you really don't get this outdoor practice. So it's going to be imperative that early on he find that grip, get a good feel for his breaking ball, and attack the zone with it early in counts, because while he does have a good fastball, very similar to Dragani's as well, in the low 90s range, not quite as much arm side run as Dragani tends to get, but he's going to have to mix and match with that curveball. His changeup a little bit better than Dragani, so expect him to lean on that a little bit too against this fairly right-handed heavy Michigan lineup, as they'll be hitting today. A lot of switch hitters, and those guys will be going from the right side against the left-hander Blom, but on both sides of the mound, look for both guys to attack a little bit more with the fastball than they usually like, and once they feel good enough in their warm-ups with the breaking ball, they should be going to that in-game and trying to throw off the hitters. I think we will have a low-scoring game today because on the offensive side, the weather, as you were saying, the ball doesn't travel as well. So balls in the air are going to hang up, and then balls on the ground will be interesting because since the field is wet, in addition to it being on turf, the ball's going to play fast, so the infielders are really going to have to be on their toes today, looking to make plays behind their pitchers.
Well, as we've mentioned, the weather this weekend really as a whole has been absolutely atrocious. Friday, the weather was decent, sunny. Saturday, obviously, the reason why we initially scheduled a doubleheader today is because yesterday's game was postponed due to temperature, and similarly, we found ourselves in a 3-hour weather delay here because of temperature. Obviously, the rain has been relatively persistent, though we've reached a fairly sizable gap in the rain. However, the temperature, of course, is the most important, as Ray Fisher Stadium, the field is made of turf, therefore they can play in the rain. However, Big Ten rule, if the real field temperature, according to AccuWeather, is below 28 degrees, then no team is allowed to play. There is no room for negotiation, and there is no discretion. And the real field temperature really this afternoon has been hovering around 20, 21 until just recently, as of about 45 minutes ago, it went up to about 30 or 31. And it's gone up to the mid to high 30s now, but still obviously very, very cold out there. All the players wearing sleeves. A lot of games canceled so far. Obviously, Michigan softball is not playing today, but Ray Fisher Stadium is relatively empty. Not very many spectators, all of them sitting under roofs. Something interesting here, that this Maryland lineup, obviously Nick Dunn is a very threatening hitter, hitting at the second spot in the order, hits .336, 7 home runs, 25 RBIs, but the rest of this Maryland lineup, especially the bottom of the order, is a little weaker. Randy Bednar, Tommy Gardner, and Justin Morris, the last 3 hitters in the Maryland lineup, hit a respective 198, 190, and 195. And that's juxtaposed with the Michigan team, where no player in their lineup is hitting below 200. Their lowest average is Miles Lewis, who hits 226. Suppose is it not unfair to say that Tyler Blom is in for a little bit more of a challenge than Dragani?
Yeah, Blom will be in for a challenge against this great Michigan lineup that's been hitting even better in Big Ten play. They've really upped their average as a team. But I think on the Maryland side of things, the guys aren't as bad as their averages indicate. Randy Bednar, the 7-hitter, a 27th round pick by the Braves. He's got a huge leg kick, a really powerful swing. It's just sometimes he gets caught on his front foot, and I'm sure these Big Ten pitchers that are so excellent have seen the scouting report and seen you need to throw this guy breaking balls to really get him out of rhythm. And I think today will be interesting from his side, from Bednar's side, because the pitchers aren't going to be as willing to throw breaking balls because of the weather, so he can sit fastball and look to drive the baseball, but even driving the baseball is going to be difficult in this weather, so the game really gets a lot more compacted when it's cold like this. Also on the Maryland side, Marty Costas is a really good player. He's not hitting so well this year, only at 221, but Last year he was hitting around 330. He was actually on the 2017 All Big Ten first team. He got picked by the Astros in the 25th round. Played over the summer after not signing in the Cape Cod League with the Brewster Whitecaps. His team won the title, and he did an excellent job hitting in that league against some of the best college competition in the country. Last year also, he hit 13 home runs. This year at the halfway mark, he only has 2, so I'm not really sure if some sort of injury going on there, if it's a confidence thing, or if he's getting pitched a lot differently and he hasn't adjusted, but Costas is a really talented player, and for this Maryland team to excel down the stretch and make a run towards getting into the Big Ten tournament, because only the top 8 teams in the conference make the tournament, Maryland at number 9 right now, and even the NCAA tournament, if they can have a really good run, they're going to need a lot of production out of Costas, and he really can't keep hitting in the 220s. He's going to have to return to his form from last season.
Maryland has so far this season, Maryland 16 wins, 18 losses overall in Big Ten play, 3 wins, 4 losses. The Wolverines haven't played quite as many games due to various weather cancellations, not unlike what we are witnessing this weekend. Overall, 20 wins, 11 losses, and in Big Ten play, they are undefeated, 7-0, including what so far most remarkably, the Wolverines have won 15 straight games. And a lot of that, of course, starts with the top of the order. Akeo Thomas, Christian Bullock, and Jonathan Engelman. Thomas has the lowest average of those 3, hitting a mere 258. However, he leads the team in walks with 24, has an on-base percentage of 388, and has 12 for 14 stolen base attempts. Bullock, the one lefty of those 3, is hitting 284 and has a on-base percentage of 321, 12 for 15 stolen base attempts. Then Jonathan Engelman, right now, arguably their second strongest hitter, 341 average, 413 on-base percentage, 4 home runs, and 12 for 17 stolen base attempts. And down the order, the Wolverines' leader in average and on-base percentage, Jordan Wogu, the freshman's been hitting 354 so far this season, and a 450 on-base percentage, 6 for 7 stolen base attempts. Adam, it's obvious have a lot of players here who can hit for average. Power, obviously, of course, is a little lacking in some categories. However, the players can hit for contact, they can draw walks, they can get on base, and they can run on the base paths. Am I wrong in saying that's really what these all-around skilled players really what fueled this 15-game win streak?
I would say a lot of it goes back to the bullpen, because early on the bullpen didn't have much confidence in itself and it would come in and blow lots of leads. But recently this bullpen has been cracking down, and a lot of that has been in addition to the fact that the starters have gone deeper into games and done better the third time through the lineup. Statistically, opponent batting average skyrockets when hitters face a pitcher a third time, but these Michigan pitchers, for the most part, have done a really good job limiting damage the third time through, enabling that bullpen to get more rest, and then when the bullpen does come in, it's later in the game, and they can save their better pitchers for the higher leverage situations later in game. And a lot of the times recently, they haven't even had to go to their star bullpen arms, because on the offensive side of the baseball, they've been hitting the ball so much better. Their average is up 21 points as a team in conference play, and a lot of that has been because of this top 10 recruiting class that came in this year. Jesse Franklin on an absolute tear. Some of the most raw power I've ever seen, watching him in batting practice a few times this year. He's really turning it on. Jack Blomgren has been incredible the past few weeks. I know he's only hitting 238 on the season, but he's hitting 368 in conference with a 579 slugging percentage, and a lot of that has been because he's just acclimating. And when you come up as a freshman, a lot of these guys don't play in the most competitive high school leagues. I know everyone plays travel ball nowadays, and that's certainly competitive, but a guy like Blomgren has really adjusted to this next level pitching, and we've seen it at the plate. Early on in the season, the coaching staff was confident in him and kept him in the lineup because of his approach at the plate, in that he stuck with everything he'd been working on. He was swinging at good pitches. He just wasn't getting the results he wanted, and on top of that, he was great on the defensive side of the baseball, so the coaching staff kept him in there, and their confidence has absolutely paid off. In addition to Franklin, the other freshman, Blomgren, has been on an absolute tear the past few weeks, and he's looking to continue that today. Well,
unfortunately, a new development here. They are delaying this game yet again due to temperatures. Unfortunately, due to communication with our station, it's possible that we, as a result of this delay, will not be able to call this game. But we will keep you posted with a little we'll keep you posted on our status in the next few minutes. Meanwhile, let's take a look around the rest of the sports world. Obviously, the NBA playoffs started today. Game 1 has just completed. The Boston Celtics beat the Milwaukee Bucks in overtime. And as of right now, in the NHL playoffs, the Philadelphia Flyers are playing the Pittsburgh Penguins in Game 3 in Philadelphia. Adam, do you have any takeaways from that first game of the NBA playoffs?
I think it's good for the NBA. You know, a lot of what they've been hampered with in the past has been this notion that these first-round playoff games don't matter because no one's beaten the Cavs in the East, at least, and it goes 7 games, so it's not all that exciting. But the Raptors-Wizards game was tight last night. The Pelicans-Blazers game was tight last night, and then this game was incredible. Tons of excellent play on both sides of the basketball, and this Celtics young core is incredible, to say the least. They're doing all this without Kyrie Irving, without Gordon Hayward, 2 guys that have gone down to injury. Marcus Smart also out for the Celtics, and these young guys have stepped up in addition to a lot of unsung heroes like Marcus Morris and Aaron Baines, guys that have been basically journeymen throughout their NBA careers but have come into Boston and really found a role with Coach Brad Stevens, who has done an excellent job just like he did at Butler. And then getting to the NHL, not much for fall in the NHL, but Nick, I do feel your sentiment of not wanting to see the Penguins win again. You know, parity's good for any league. Sometimes it can be nice to see a dominant team, but as an LA guy, I know my Kings haven't started the playoffs out so hot, but I'm pulling for them. And then in the East, I can get behind the former Atlanta Thrashers. I've got some family down in Atlanta, and I don't really have any affinity for teams on the East Coast, but it's kind of cool that hockey's back in Winnipeg. You know, it kind of stinks that it left Atlanta, but Atlanta, a real southern city, not much of a hockey city, but got to support the Jets.
Speaking of upsets, last night in the NBA playoffs, obviously the playoffs started yesterday. The 6 seed New Orleans Pelicans upset the 3 seeded Portland Trailblazers in the Moda Center in Portland, considered one of the more intimidating places to play. So do you expect the Pelicans to pull out the series?
I think Portland as a team is just a lot more talented all around. I think they'll eventually be able to figure things out, but Anthony Davis is just such a monster. You saw last night his full prowess on display. Some of the incredible things he can do on a basketball court, being 7 feet tall and being able to dribble like a guard and shoot like a guard, but at the same time, like any old traditional post player like, say, Shaq, he's able to go inside, attack the glass on defense, block shots. He can post up on offense. He's got a lot of nifty finishing moves around the rim, and Portland has no one on their team that'll be capable of stopping him. So it's really about, can their guys score enough to overcome his dominance on the other end of the court? And I think they're going to have to be more reliant on the three-point shot because he does do such a great job of holding down the interior and stopping other teams from getting easy looks around the rim.
Obviously, the Portland Trailblazers are capable of doing that. They have considered one of the best backcourts in basketball with C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard. However, they were to a certain extent stifled for large stretches of the game yesterday. Do you think that continues, or do you think they heat up?
Well, the Pelicans do have some good defensive players on the perimeter, like Tony Allen, Rajon Rondo, although both those guys are getting old. They can still bring it night in and night out. Drew Holiday had an excellent season on the defensive end of the court. And I think if those guys do as well as they did last night, bottling up these Portland players, they can win the series. But I think Terry Stotts is going to make some adjustments to free his guys in Lillard and McCollum and get them going.
Obviously, Game 2 is still in the Moda Center. Then it goes back to New Orleans. Another interesting development: the Toronto Raptors, for the first time in possibly ever, have won the first game of a playoff series.
Yeah, it's actually their second time ever winning the first game of a playoff series. The last one happened in 2000. But getting back to what's going on the field here, it's interesting. Neither of the starting pitchers are actually warming up. It's just on the Maryland side, some guys are playing pepper. And then on the Michigan side, there's really no one in the dugout. Everyone's still inside. Jesse Franklin out warming up right now, not even a jacket on, which is kind of surprising. A few players taking fungos out in left field, but the guys are kind of messing around right now, and they really don't seem intent on playing baseball anytime soon, which does not bode well for us up here. The Maryland guys still in the dugout. A lot of guys from Maryland still on the field, but as I said before, neither starter is active. As you said, getting back to that rule, starters aren't allowed to warm up if the temperature gets below 28 degrees, and that's been inhibiting us thus far today. And
yep,
it's really been painful waiting here.
Yeah, as of 1 minute ago, Real Feel has dropped back below 120. Dropped back below 28. So as a result, this delay will continue, and we are not sure how long. I think, very sorry to say, it seems an awful lot like we will not be able to call this game. Unfortunately, very, very sorry to all of those listening, and very sorry to those of us who were getting excited to call this game. Unfortunately, very sad, but the weather is the weather, and the state of Michigan really has had a rough start to spring, hence all these game cancellations, including our professional team, the Detroit Tigers. So as a result, I am, on behalf of WCBN Sports, on behalf of Adam Rich, I am Nick Hornberg. We are very sorry for the situation here. We wanted to call baseball for you today, and unfortunately it looks like we're not going to be able to do that. So thus, best of luck to the Michigan baseball team going forward. They have won 15 straight. Hopefully they can make it 16, weather permitting, in the future perhaps.
And getting back to next week, hopefully we will have better weather. It's forecasted right now to be in the 50s. That'll definitely be good enough for baseball. It'll just be on whether or not it rains. Right now, not projected to rain. Going to be partly cloudy next week, and should be getting some good weather for a 3-game set as the Wolverines host the Penn State Nittany Lions Friday at 4, Saturday at 2, and Sunday at 1. All 3 of those games will be on WCBN Sports. You can catch us here on the same YouTube channel, and we look forward to calling those games for you. As Nick said, Nick Hornberg and Adam Rich from WCBN Sports. Sorry about the weather issues we've been having today. Unfortunately, we will not be calling the rest of this game. But in the event this one does happen, you can follow along on the Michigan Baseball Twitter
or on mgoblue.com. All right, thank you very much for listening. Once again, we apologize profusely for the situation. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody, and hopefully this weather gets better. And have a great week, everyone, and go blue.